If you're the type of person who is trying to make the best cEDH deck possible and trying to be like the top cEDH grinder in the universe, this video is not for you. This video is for people who want to make awful, terrible cEDH decks that don't win events and maybe win one game at your locals, right? This is that video. We're going to be talking about kind of my thoughts on the landscape of cEDH since I've competed a little bit and talk about some really dumb things I'm trying in my classic Sisay Elk deck, because this time it's pretty hot in a really bad way. And I'm trying to take some of like my learnings from playing or grinding other competitive formats and what I brought back into the deck after like a year of the last update. And the last update wasn't even a real update. It was just me like putting new cards in there, but it fundamentally didn't change the deck. All right. So hopefully that weeded out most of the real cEDH players who are like trying to figure out how to increase their win rate 5% on their profile online. Again, it's not for you. Please leave if you're the type of person who watches those videos. All right. So let's talk about cEDH a little bit in the landscape. Since the big ban for cEDH with Mana Crypt, Dockside, Jewel Lotus, and Nadu, pour one out for my boy. You know, I was about to play cEDH again because I made the hottest TNT deck. That was a breakfast deck with Nadu in it. I was like, finally, a deck I want to play. And then that weekend, I get like a message saying, by the way, we're banning Nadu. So that really sucked. Really, really sucked. That's also kind of why I haven't played cEDH in a while, just because like I play a lot of Rogfast. It kind of gets old. A little bit. Actually, this is not a video about dunking cEDH. Stay on focus. That meta is obviously very different from this meta, right? We went from TNT being like the punchline to all my videos to being like the meta deck, right? What changed? Obviously, losing fast mana kind of hurt the turbo decks a little bit, right? Losing Jewel Lotus, which a lot of the T and K players are like, actually, the Crom plan was the worst plan, and just playing Jewel Lotus was kind of bad. I think that was pretty impactful for you not to get your 5 mana zombie on turn 2 to like be your plan D to grind your way through a game. Like, I think that's probably meaningful. It's also very meaningful you lose your Dockside lines and losing like Mana Crypt, right? For your Adnos, much harder to spike mana, much harder to fix your mana after your Nos. That's my assumption. Not that Adnos is bad. We saw Ian win some SCG with like SpongeBob, right? It just doesn't matter. You can be a 5-color Nos deck, you're fine. But I do think that it is shifting. You know, we know we're like mid-range hell or whatever, and TNT is the best deck, right? Like, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that the bans contributed to TNT gaining, you know, a lot more equity in the meta share. God, I sound like a douchebag. All right, so games are grindier. We know games are going longer. Way longer, and there's lots more ties, draws, all of that, right? So what are we talking about here? I think when I started playing Rogfast way earlier on, when Rogfast really started to catch on, I think I was like one of 3 or 4 players who play Rogfast in I forgot the Philly event, the Philly tournament. I like almost made top 16, but then like punted and then lost like this other thing. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I saw like the power in Rogfast like very quickly. Sam Black was the one who really pioneered it. Other players evolved it, whatever. But the point is, I wrote an article on my Patreon about how Rogfast is like kind of like the best deck in the format. And here's the reason why, right? Your ability to get mana very quickly so that you can overcome the inefficiencies in the mana value of your cards. So like playing, you know, dumb tutors or whatever versus like having access to like more efficient black tutors, like Demonic Tutor, Vamp Tutor, all that stuff, right? The fact that you're able to make so much mana so consistently, so quickly, kind of like the way Roxai does, but in a more permanent sense, kind of beats everyone else through the quality of your action, right? And I want to talk about the quality of action a little bit, because I think people will kind of argue like Rogfast has low quality of action because the cards you play are kind of dumb. Like you play a Displacer Kitten and then like some other stupid card. You know, they're not the elegant weapon of choice, Dark Ritual into like an Adnos, right? That's a refined cEDH person, like the refined Storm win con. Playing creatures and playing like bounce loops are, you know, so brutish and silly. But the fact that you're able to invest your mana into your board, have those pieces individually provide marginal value where all of them together kind of puts you into a threshold where even though your things are kind of dumb, your superior mana and the combination of all that advantage actually puts you in a pretty good spot, right? So quality of action, that's going to be the subject of today's discussion before I get to the dumb stuff. So why does quality of action matter? Quality of action matters because one deck I've left out, I haven't talked about yet, is Kinnan. Kinnan is kind of insane, right? Like we know Kinnan is like one of the top tier decks, right? We know that for a fact. We know like every Kinnan has replaced Winota as baby's first cEDH deck, and you're gonna win with Kinnan way more than you are gonna win with Winota because Kinnan's pretty simple, right? Make mana spin. There's probably primers and dissertations on the nuance around Kinnan and how complex your decision making is. But you know, if we were to take a step back and say, what does your deck do? Make mana spin, hopefully spin well, spin into Seaborn Muse, you win. Okay, cool. There's a lot of strength in that, right? And it's very interesting to see Kinnan evolve from being there day one, which makes me feel so old now. Being there day one to see Kinnan, Hellboy, Geod's Kinnan list that I really liked that played, I forgot which big green card. Maybe it was like Great Aurora, I don't remember. But like kind of like a rocks, like more like a Joyra list where you draw cards off playing. I don't exactly remember what the deck does anymore. To going into like, to evolving into something that Higher was doing with playing, you know, big fatties, right? That was actually quite a large innovation for Kinnan. A lot of people like made fun of it. They're like, why do you play big fatties? That is so inelegant when you could be playing just good cards to combo off better. And then Higher would drop like a Nezahal or like a Void Winnower or like something really dumb, a Terrastodon. And then like, what are you gonna do? Train a Vapor that stuff? Good luck. You know, seeing it evolve that way. And then Matt Sperling coming in, putting a couple more cards in here with like Astral Dragon, I think, copying things. The deck has really like evolved, right? I can like, I know the history and seen the history and how the deck has evolved. And what's the last thing? Okay, so I recently played, you know, more games and when I play against Kinnan, it's not that particularly difficult. But something I noticed about Kinnan nowadays, it's even harder to beat. Because of like now you have access to Talon Gates. The decks playing like some decks are playing Misdirection. There's Spellseeker, not Spellseeker. There's Spellskite. I think they've always played Spellskite, but there's also Glen Elendra. I don't know how long that's been in there. I think it's probably been there maybe around Higher days. But anyway, there's a lot of protection around it, right? You have Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which I've seen in tournament before, where they Soul Cauldron like effects onto their dorks, and now they have another axis to fight on, right? Your dorks can now be Glen Elendras, your dorks can be something else. I don't know. The point is that it's a very versatile, very fast, very efficient, very consistent deck, right? So going back to that original conversation of quality of action, I think to be a performant, good tier 1 tournament deck, if I was playing for money, and this is the only reason why I compete, but if I take the same mindset I do with other formats that I compete in, with the same rigor, same focus, same desire to convert and win and be good, Kinnan has to be up there, right? I don't think that's like a controversial take. The thing to talk about is like, that is your standard, right? That's a standard you have to rival to be of the same level, right? You could play, you know, I don't know, like your casual dumb deck I'm about to show you on the side over here that win. I beat Kinnan with this thing, right? I can say that I beat Kinnan, and you can argue like, I beat all the Kinnans at my locals level. I top 16, like whatever, you know, a 100 person event. And this is my Hashaton deck is like perfectly performant. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't follow Hashaton. I don't think it's that good. But that's my take. I'm washed, right? But back to the subject, stay focused. Kinnan, Raw class are good because they're able to take very high quality of action. They take all that mana and convert it turn and turn again into something else, right? When Kinnan flips into a Seaborn Muse, if you don't have an answer, you lose. Generally, right? Unless they like lose all their flips. But if they go flip into Seaborn Muse, the game mostly tilts towards them, right? And if you have multiple Kinnans, the game really quickly devolves into like Kinnan playing the game. especially with seedboard memes. I think that's like the main issue. But even without that, the fact that you're able to spit out all that mana and use that mana to do something and have the fallback of then flipping into creatures once you're out of cards is very, very strong, right? When I see how Kinnan and Rogfast perform, or when I play Rogfast, we're playing a different game. If you're not playing those decks, like, you can do things, but it almost feels like Rogsai to me is like outdated. When I see Rogsai and Najeela and all those like other decks that are tier 1, I made a video about how Rogsai is the standard. I think the standard is like a little bit lower because losing your Dockside is a pretty big deal. So anyways, kind of shilling, the video isn't here to shill Kinnan. Kinnan doesn't need to be shilled. It's just to say that, to me, this is kind of the landscape that we built into, right? Why does that matter? It matters because when you're building into a metagame, you need to understand your plans of how you address those decks, right? So when I competed, I forgot which event this was. I think it was cEDH. I competed, and actually, let's pull this up. Let's pull this up right now. One thing I did for cEDH is, this was after I started competing in Modern a bit, talking about the idea of, here you go, this one. Talking about the idea of tackling a metagame. Something that I showed Freedom Waffle, or Evan, is type and tag. My plan against the metagame. So I used the label a punish because, I wanted to be more like Nathan Stoyer, punishing people. The idea of a punish is, like, to me, one of the concepts that he taught me or talks about a little bit more. But I needed to understand, I needed to make sure that the deck I build and take into the metagame has game against the other opponents, right? I'm not going to dive too deep into how you play cEDH like well. I think that's just like other people can do that. But the idea of my deck is when I play, like, at the time, Atraxa was very popular. So I wasn't going to index too many cards to Atraxa just because I don't think it's that popular. I did actually run into one Atraxa and I did lose to it. And I forgot why. I think it was my fault. I think I pushed twice, whatever, who cares? But I wanted to have some game against it, right? And these are mostly stable cards. Double Pyro for the Traxa, the Drenith to stop the Trax from coming in, but the Tishana's Tidebinder to stop the ATB, or stop the food chain or something like that. Grixis cards to punish them, so Dauntless taps out all their mana to make their Adnos harder, Dothy Voidwalker to exile their card to make the Breach pile worse, and also I can leverage it myself. OBM, we know it's good, punishes draws, and I like Smothering Tide a lot, just to like work against kind of like all the draw effects, right? So then I have more mana superiority. I start doing the thing that Rockvan wants to do, which is I have accumulation of all the mana, and then now I can win the game. Kinnan, you can see 7 cards, right? Out of like Atraxa has 4, Kinnan has 7. I have Containment Priest to stop the thing. I have Dam to blow up other creatures. Dauntless to kind of slow them down a little bit. Drenith, obviously good. These 2 cards are good to blow up the Kinnan, and Tishana Tidebinder to stop the active ability or stop the Basalt untap, right? This is marginally here. I don't build towards Najeela, but it's good to know that my Dam also works against Najeela. OBM, very good against Najeela for the Warriors, and Swords to Plowshare is like relevant on the Derevi, right? I had Sisay because Sisay was picking up a little bit. I think Opposition Agent was here just to mark that. But again, the Containment Priest now serves like the role of mostly here to punish Kinnan, sort of here to punish the Sisay. Again, I don't really respect Sisay decks that much back then. I still don't really. So it's just like, this is just me being mindful of what there is, right? Tivit, Dam's important because once they stick the Tivit's impossible to kill. So I think Dam's important to be in there. Dauntless, obviously good to stop the combo. Wait, does it stop the combo? It does not. It does slow them down, though. Dockside to punish them because they make treasures, so then we make mana. And let me see if there's any other punish cards. I think there isn't. The one interaction. That's funny. So when we talk about kind of what the metagame is, the next step is how do we tackle that metagame. That's kind of how I think about when I build decks, right? How I approach deck building. If I'm really compete in something, if I really were to take it serious and really want to compete, play in it, that's the rigor I have, right? And this one note I would add is when I like kind of coach people informally, I don't coach anymore because I'm just washed. I don't compete. So the quality information you're going to get, it's just not relevant. I can coach in other things, but not cEDH. It's not a coaching video. It's anti-coaching. Actually, I'm just generally anti-coaching for cEDH. But what was I saying? But okay, one of the issues that people have with deck building before an event, when they used to come coach with me is what's my perfect 100? You know, they're going to want us to do this exercise. So like, Rebel, do you think I should play the opposition agent or not? I feel like opposition is a little slow, but I'm worried that there's going to be like a lot of Kinnin or a lot of Sisay, and I should definitely bring the opposition agent in to beat the Sisay. But then what if there's too many Kinnins, right? Like there's a bajillion questions and like, you know, I really don't think the Dauntless Dismantler is like the right card to stop my like the opponent thing. I feel like the Blind Obedience is a little bit better because it gets like Blind Obedience gets stopped by like Sorcerer Plowshares. Like there's a million questions that people ask just to like get this perfect 100 list. Same issue happens with 60 card. The difference in 60 card is the good players go, I think they have an assumption. They have a hypothesis of this is why I built the 100. This is why I have 4 Drake Hatchers in my main board versus this is the reason why I have 2 Drake Hatchers and 2 Slick Shots. This is only for standard players who understand what I'm saying. But they have a reasoning behind it, right? It's not a firm like, that's it. This is the list, right? They're looking into the metagame and making hedges and taking their best guess at like trying to position their deck the best way possible, but it's never going to be perfect. The meta moves too fast, right? Too many new products, too many new cards to ever try and figure out the perfect 100. There is standard, right? If you look at a modern Boros energy list, most of it's figured out, right? But nowadays you get to maybe put in like one showdown, like couple of showdown of skulls, and like that's innovation. That's gonna increase your mirror like percentages here and there, right? So there's parts of your deck that obviously is locked down, but then the last 10% or so, 5%, people over-index on the importance of that. They think that if you figure out the last 5%, you're gonna like win the finals of the thing. It's gonna carry you every game, right? Every now and then it might. Every now and then you're gonna be rewarded for being the next Mike Flores who can call, like do the meta call and be like, this is why I'm gonna play, I don't know, that Trick Bind. That Trick Bind's gonna be the card, and that Trick Bind's gonna reward you, right? There's so few people who can do that, and there's so few situations where you can find truly the innovation that's gonna be meaningful versus just being a good Magic player. If you're confident in your deck and your skills to pilot it, most of that skill is gonna carry your deck more than like whatever final card we're gonna pick in, right? So there's a lot of like setup just to talk about kind of deck building, but it's a casual video, We're gonna talk about cEDH once a year. This is that video. I'm gonna talk about everything here, but let's talk about this awful deck now. Why do I want to talk about this awful deck? I want to talk about this awful deck because it's fun and it's funny and it's very stupid. And I think, again, like you can follow other people to talk more in depth about how to build kind of meta decks. I've obviously pivoted away from that. And I think people like to watch my videos because I have kind of stupid takes. And then every now and then the stupid takes are actually kind of good. So I want to talk about kind of like what I brought back into this awful deck. Sisay Elk. Why would you ever play this deck? First of all, I made this deck for people who don't know, just to prove a point. That was good. It was very good. Back when you didn't have companion cost of 3. But nowadays, much less good, right? Or is it? Because we're not dependent on Dockside anymore. All the other Sisay decks are like, this is the best deck in the universe. It's the same thing with like, well, this is an elegant warrior's choice of deck. I can toolbox for any solution. Once I have 5 mana, I can beat you in 20 different configurations. It's a Dockside deck. Kinnin make mana spin. Sisay put a Dockside, fetch your meal, win. Right? Like that's really it. There's play around how you get there, but don't think for a second that deck wasn't a Dockside deck, right? This deck, well, now there's no Dockside. I don't know how Sisay is doing right now. I don't know the numbers. You tell me. You play cEDH more than I do. I assume it's not as high as it used to be, right? So actually, kind of funnily enough, this deck's kind of good now for Sisay because when I play it, I can put turn 3 wins or like threaten turn 3 wins pretty consistently. Turn 3, 4, and also because the metagame's slower now, right? I wanted to test to see how much mid-range hell kind of gives time, right? Because if it gives time, boy, I'll take that time. Because we get to then put a fat elk in hand, cheat it into play, give it haste, and win. What happens when they have interaction? We lose. That's it. We lose. But there's ideas around it. So I'm going to talk about what kind of innovations, kind of things how I've tried to build into this deck, and then where I project. I will change this list and maybe some ideas for you to take away in cEDH. So back on this deck, why I wanted I decided to make this deck again because I was looking at my altars. Actually, I'll show you. I took all the altars out because it's actually in my deck now. Oh, I phased out. I was looking at all my altars and I kind of missed the deck. And I don't compete anymore. So I decided to take this to locals just to get a sense of what cEDH is like more. I play a little bit at cons, so I do have a general sense of it. But I wanted to get like more experience. Again, I wanted to see how different the texture of the game is. Look at all the big words I'm using. It makes me so smart. So I wanted to play this dumb deck again. So that's why I rebuilt this deck. And one of the things that I wanted to solve for was Sisay. This is the persistent Sisay problem that I refuse to believe anyone has ever solved. Is that, and people will say this, people will claim this, and I don't believe them. Maybe because I can't do it, so I can't believe them, is Sisay's land base is awful. Like, I'm just going to pull up one list. Here, I've pulled up Trent's list because I know Trent can take it in terms of me like roasting a list. Trent has more competitive, like, I don't know, accolades than I do, right? So when I say roast it, I understand, this is the perspective I have, right? There's nothing wrong with the list. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But let's just take a look at the mana base real quick. All right, so we have, we'll do our thing where we look at the colors, the distribution of colors. Oh God. Okay, so we have 43%, 36, 36, 39, 36, pretty even, right? We have 29, 29% in white and blue, 29 even here, lower in black, obviously lower in black and red, right? Sisay players know that generally these two are like the less important colors. Green's very important because of Silvala. White's very important because of Emil, our commander, and also blue is for all the interaction, right? So black and red naturally the lowest because black we have Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, I presume, and you also just need to make black, right? Same thing for red. Red, you have Ragavan, maybe the Red Blast if you play them. I'm not even looking at the list, right? I don't generally remember the list, but this all makes sense, right? That's kind of your land base. Our land base is mostly all the duels. I'm not gonna like look too deep into it. Is there a Savannah? Are we missing any? Nope. I think it's all here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I missed one maybe, or maybe missing one. Is it missing Badlands? Yeah, we are. Instead, it's probably Mount Doom. Makes sense. So we have all 10 duels. We have a Tarnished Citadel, which actually I think makes a lot of sense here. There's a mana confluence. If we're lucky, there's a gemstone, a City of Brass, Command Tower, Exotic Orchard. So 6 gold lands so far. And then the Ottawa is painful, but Sage is also painful, but we have to have it because it's like the best kind of removal. And then here's one color source. And then, yeah. So the land base seems to make sense, right? Why am I bringing this up? It's because when we go back up over here, you just have to think about what your sequencing of gameplay is, right? We're going to have to play maybe Mystic or more, maybe a Ristic Study on turn 1 to 3. So blue is important. We do want to get Northern Ties somewhat early, so white's important. We need to hold blue up to play all the blue interaction with Swan Song, Strict Serenade, Into the Flood Maw, Flusterstorm, Dispel, Cyclonic Rift. How are you ever casting that Abrupt Decay? Like, until later in the game, right? If we're actively fetching, it's extremely difficult to be able to support so far a Soul Tie plus white to play your commander early in the top 3, right? People are gonna say I am the best at land fetching. If you are able to outfetch the needs of your deck, 60 card like deck builders would not kind of recognize the difficulty of 3 color decks, right? Of 2 color decks. 2 color decks sounds simple, but when there's like double blue, double red pips that you have to solve within like the first couple 3 turns, or first couple turns, the constraint is there. It happens when you compete often. You will recognize there are times when you can't play that double pip spell because you're over indexing on another one, right? If your deck is majority black in a red black mid range, that if Fable was double red white or double red colorless, Fable would be pretty hard to cast. I don't know. So to say that like you can cast Abrupt Decay easily is probably difficult, but that's why Abrupt Decay probably comes a little bit later, right? We have Ruby here, probably hard to cast earlier on. I think all the green white stuff, super easy to cast, right? We want to turn 1 Esper. We want to have turn 1 a green Dork. This one's probably easy to cast. Ragavan, if you fetched for that red, you probably lose a little bit something, but not that much equity, right? It's mostly a Bant deck, and then the rest of it is harder to cast, right? I think Tyvar might be slightly harder to cast, probably not that hard. But my point is just, I know Sisay works before, where Sisay has Dockside to cheat all the mana requirements, but I think, I don't know, maybe you're the best player in the universe. I don't think it's far-fetched for a Sisay player to admit that it's hard to cast all their spells reliably, right? And also make Wooburg. So with that in mind, the first thing I wanted to solve when I'm building this deck is that land base. And this is why there's an Ancient Ziggurat, right? This is a terrible, useless card from Conflux. It gives you one color of any color in your mana pool and spend it to only play creature spells. I have a Cavern of Souls because Cavern naming humans is super good. Then I have Mana Confluence, obviously, with Plaza Heroes. Plaza Heroes is a good card. I have Reflecting Pool. I don't know why we don't play Reflecting Pool. Reflecting Pool, it's basically your second command tower. Sure, sometimes it won't be a command tower. Sometimes it comes in like it's your only land. It's kind of useless, but it seems kind of good to me. I don't know. It's an untapped like duel. I have Unclaimed Territory, super dumb card, naming humans, make all the colors. I can also tap for colorless. Then let's take a look at my duels. I have Tundra, I have Taiga, I have Scrubland, Savannah, Plateau, and where is it? That's it, right? 5 duels. What's missing? We're missing, if you can spot, there's a common trend between all of them except for one of them, is that they all make white. I think I don't have Plateau. Actually, I do. They all make white. So if the real trick or secret behind the version that I built is that it's a white deck. It's mostly a primarily white human deck with green, and then all the other colors don't matter, right? And when all the other colors don't matter, it's super easy to fetch because I can cast all my spells pretty reliably. Let's just like take a look at, I've actually never looked at my chart down here. Yeah, 50% of my mana symbols make white, 40% of my deck is white. Everything else is secondary except for the green. Why is my blue so low? Because this is gonna be like probably shocking. It's gonna be like mind-blowing. I don't play interaction except for Fierce Guardianship, a Deflecting Swat, and a Swords to Plowshares. I actually, in my paper version, added a Swan Song and a Psych Rift. Funny enough, I put a Pact Negation, almost died to it, just because I was trying to fill out my deck. But basically, I have recognized that I am not here to interact. This deck is awful. I'm here to be parasitic. I'm here to play stacks, play my permanents, subject myself to kind of the whims of the table, because everyone's so grindy now and has so much interaction. That's your job, right? This deck is never going to beat a fast deck. That's just it. If I face against 2 Kinnons, I lose. That's it. That's the fact of it. There's no universe without the other decks just really screwing up where I could beat like Rogsai, Kinnon. There's just no universe of that happening. And we have to accept that. That's just a matchup I can't beat, right? That's the limitation of my deck. For every other kind of situation, I'm fine. I can win a game at my locals with this. I did. I almost won 2. But it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter how many games I won at a local level, because structurally, from like a competitive standpoint, this deck's unplayable. I told you earlier, the quality of action, right? The quality of action in this deck is so low that we don't need to talk about it. You know, if I were to compete, I'd play Rogthras. Do that, like I can play that deck with my eyes closed, right? This deck's for fun. But the reason why I bring it up is because when you build your decks, I think you have to have that understanding of like, how do I make sure my spells are playable and I have a clear game plan and accept where I lose, right? There's going to be compositions where you just can't beat it. And you have to rely on your piloting skills and a little bit of luck to beat those matchups. You have bad matchups. You can't try to make your deck solve everything because it just won't, right? There's always going to be kind of like breaks that you can't fix. You can hedge percentages to fix that. I can play more cards, like more interaction. I can play Dispel, and Offer You Can't Refuse, blah, 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 all those blue cards to try to beat the stack interaction because I want to hedge percentage to that. But it comes at a cost of me playing all the other cards. So I'm going to lose that game. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to play Sisay and have my unique advantage of converting my mana into a permanent, right? If I get to play a mid-range game, you're kind of in trouble. Not really, because you can blow up all my stuff. But anyways, that's just kind of a note there. I have a Demonic Tutor. Actually, my old version, I didn't have a Demonic Tutor. I forgot why. I was like, why am I not playing Demonic Tutor? Then I played a couple games. I'm like, that's why I don't play Demonic Tutor, which is insane. I'd rather play E-Call than Demonic Tutor because first of all, harder to cast. Second of all, just sorcery speed. What am I looking for? Just dumb cards. I don't need dumb cards. I just need more mana to play my Elk, protect it, win, right? I do play a Vamp Tutor though, so I'm not completely nuts. I do have an Imperial Seal in my paper version. But let's take a look at the creatures because this will answer a lot more questions. I have Voice of Victory, obviously, Thalia, Heretic Cathar. This one's kind of like a meme stacks legend that I think all stacks players have tried before. This card was actually very good. It just stops all the tutor, like it stops all the fetch lands and just slows the game down a lot, right? Thalia is pretty good. And people are like saying stacks cards are Kingmaker cards. This deck is a Kingmaker deck. I don't care. Tartaru, you know, we assume is good. Spells got important to shift the misdirect the interaction away from our very important creatures. Sigarda gives hexproof to our board. This is part of our win con. For those who don't know how this deck wins, because it's been so long, you have Sisay, play Gigantha, give Gigantha haste or just pass the turn and somehow don't die. Tap Gigantha, Sisay's a 4/4. Then you find Derevi. Derevi untap this, find a Samut, all your creatures have haste, attack with everything, get untap triggers, find Najeela. It's a Najeela deck, all right? For those who don't know, because then you continue. Ruby is pretty bad. I cut Ruby. But the other kind of thesis I'm bringing into Sisay is taking my learning from Rogfast is to have as much mana production as possible. My deck is sort of close to Rogfast, but way worse, is to play as much mana production as possible so then I can overcome my inefficiency of playing dumb cards like Sigarda. But I make so much mana, it doesn't matter that she costs 4. And then I have Pippin, I have Reki to draw me cards. Card draw is like kind of interesting here because it actually doesn't matter the way like other decks matter. Like card draw obviously good, but other decks you're drawing into like free interaction, your mind break traps, or force of whales, or other things. Here it's just to give you enough material to like have more lands to play on curve, draw like another permanent. You're making like 1 to 2 to like cast a turn. So Reki is just there to give you a little more material to keep going, but not like crucial. Rona's here because of Relic of Legends. We know Relic of Legends super good, but Rona can now untap every time you play like a legendary spell and tap again for mana. I think she's kind of cool. Op Agent is a stacks piece. We know Meddling Mage. Why do we have a Meddling Mage in here? Meddling Mage is to beat Psych Rift. I could play a Swan Song. You know, I could do those things, obviously. But I play a Meddling Mage just because it's, to me, one of the easier ways to beat like a Toxic Deluge or a Psych Rift. Those are the two cards we care most about. Other things we can beat, those are the hardest to beat. So I at least put in the roadblock of like Meddling Mage, name Psych Rift is a little harder. They will need to Chain of Vapor it, but you know, whatever. Marvin is a pseudo haste enabler. Marvin's super good actually. So I'm very happy with this card. Lotho makes mana. We know what Lotho does. Lauren is an ETB destroy a breach. I think you would have to like be playing with your eyes closed if you ever lose to a Sisay fetching a Lauren, like to blow up a breach. I don't think that's realistic. Like, I know it's like a path you could take, but man, you really have to not be paying attention if you go breach and you let your Sisay opponent go Lauren and like stop you. I don't think that happens, but you know, it's there. It mainly here to destroy Ristic Studies. Lavinia is a stacks piece. Kutsil is a silence. Comball is here just as a permanent for you to play to whittle away life. That's all it does. If a game goes long, you just do damage. And it's like a white kind of human legend to play. Catilda turns all our humans into dorks, which is good. Jirina is a similar role as Lauren. You could technically fetch her to like exile a graveyard. I just think that she's like kind of helpful to just whittle away a graveyard first to make that kind of that intuition line a little harder. But also being able to sacrifice or give things hexproof is pretty good. Protecting Sisay is important. Protecting Gigantha is mostly important. So it kind of sucks that you can't give Gigantha hexproof, but being able to give Sisay hexproof is important. Glissa, this is like a fun standard card that's pretty cope. So this is here to destroy Ristic Studies. This card's actually super, super good. I played her. She basically never gets blocked. I can convert it into card draw or just destroy Ristic Studies, all the studies. So it's actually pretty good. It's pretty cope. That's pretty good. Urtai is good, so off color here, but it's fine because we expect to play this later. Again, you could probably fetch this out, but being able to counter like a variety of things is good. I use this to survive and not die to my own pack trigger, which is kind of cool. But I do like Urtai, and Urtai can be cast off the Ancient Ziggurat or the Unclaimed Territory. Elevir is here for the stacks matchup, so the game slows to a crawl. We play Elevir to like slowly pump up our creatures. So even if we never fetch, if we play that mid-range game, the reason why I do this is I think we're going to play mid-range. Our definition of mid-range is very different, or our imagination of how mid-range goes is very different. So the way I navigate it is different. So if the game slows to give me a couple more turns, I'm going to definitely leverage those turns to convert more damage to make the combat actually matter. Maybe that's very boomer of me. This deck's bad, so like, who cares? And sometimes you can also convert the combat into draw, right? It's pretty good. What's this doing here? What's Bone Crusher Giant doing here? That's the number one question I think I'm going to get. The reason why Bone Crusher is here is because how do we beat the One Ring? You don't, right? Except for the secret. This is the secret that all modern scam players know, is if they have a One Ring, you stomp yourself. Or stomp like a creature. But stomp yourself and then go to combat. And I'm going to be like, sure, go to combat. Prevent the damage. Suck it. Damage can be prevented this turn. That's the only reason why we play Bone Crusher Giant. Now, you're probably asking, Rebel, isn't there a better way to prevent combat damage? I looked for it. There isn't. So it sounds dumb. There are going to be many ways or situations where they're going to have the One Ring protection, you're ready to go off, and you knock out Bone Crusher Giant. But funny enough, the game where it did matter, I did have a Bone Crusher Giant. I did Vamp Tutor for one proactively. I just read that they're going to play to a tour, and I'm going to need to Bone Crusher my way out of this. So, I don't know. It's a dumb card, but it answers that problem, right? It's going back to this concept, the punish, right? Playing to the meta, playing to a specific strategy and how to counter it. That's my dumb counter. And we're already playing no counter spells and Ancient Ziggurat in the land base. So, like, dude, Bone Crusher Giant is within the realm of dumb stuff we're doing here. And then Teferi's here and Oko's here to shut off Kinnan. One of my best ways to answer Kinnan, but not good enough. I have learned after playing against multiple multi-Kinnan pods, this is too slow. It used to be good enough. I think it's too slow because once they stick the Kinnan, mid-game, early game, the dream state is they go one dork, Kinnan, pass, or one dork, then play Kinnan, then pass, and up to you go Oko, Elk the Kinnan, and then they're slowed down, right? There's many situations where the Kinnan comes in with like already 2 dorks and like 2 rocks, and they immediately convert that into something. Oko's too slow, right? So this takes us to the next step of where I imagine this deck will go. So one of the learnings I had is there's a lot of silence effects, right? We're here to basically just like, I didn't go through the whole deck. There's Defense Grid, who cares? I got the Soul Cauldron you can use Rona to discard Jeggy and then actually snap it onto a creature. It's like kind of cool. Mana Vault is here just to pay for companion cost. It's very important. Mojite is for that mid-range game, kill all the creatures. Timeless Lotus is our second Jeggy. If Jeggy dies, we can still very easily win with Timeless Lotus. Deafening Silence, we know what that does. Cryptolithrite, stole that from Rockfast. Rid in the Wild, very important. Makes most of our spells uncounterable, which is very good, because then you can go Voice of Victory, lose. Or Voice of Victory, win, you lose. Frostcliff Siege does 2 things. It lets us either draw cards, or in the situation where I'm in the mid game, my hand, I want to refresh my hand, I can play Frostcliff Siege, boom, draw the cards. Or I'm setting up for the Jeggy win, play this, creatures get bigger, and also trample and haste. So that's kind of why it's there. Rising of the Day, the haste matters so much. That's why we play 1, 2, 3, and a Marvin 4 to give him haste. Technically Sam at 5. Sneak Attack, very good card. Something I tested a long time ago. It's just always been good. So I'm very happy with Sneak Attack. That's like the quick version of this list. So where are we going next? Where we're going next is I'm going to cut some of these dumb cards like Ruby. I'm probably going to cut the Glissa. I'm probably going to actually cut the Meddling Mage. I think that's like a little bit too bad. I'm probably going to cut the Elevir. But the point is the strategy. There's 2 things I need to do. One thing, I need to beat Kinnan better. We can beat Rogsai pretty easily because we can throw enough roadblocks like Damping. I don't have Damping Sphere on my list, but my paper list I do. I like a Damping Sphere. I have like a Deafening Silence. I have Thalia. I have like enough things to like block them, and they're also kind of like that deck kind of sucks. It's good, I know it's good, but like it's a lot less good than it used to be. And I think it will struggle against like other decks that wants to play to a little bit more like a slower game. So we're not worried about that. Against kind of all the dork decks, I want to straight up play Pyroclasm. It's not going to be Pyroclasm. Actually, my friend Malcolm suggested Fire from Final Fantasy, which I think is very good. But the idea is I want to be able to go very early in the game, just cut off their mana, Meltdown, Fire. So then they're now forced to play a slower game. So then the Oko can be a little bit better. Now the dumb permanents like Glissa we're playing are like a little bit better. We're here to disrupt their speed a little bit, just enough so that they're put into like a tougher position where now they have to actually play Magic. And then once people actually play Magic, we get the window to stick that Jaggy and cheat it. We'll find a way to do it, right? So that's one thing, is to have more Kinnan Punish cards. I think Kinnan and Rog Thras and all those decks needs to be answered. It's unfortunate our deck plays Sisay because Curse Totem's great, but you know, with Sisay, it's a little worse. So that's one thing. I might play OBM. I think OBM is relevant and good. So punish those kind of things. The second thing I thought was very good when I was watching Kinnan play is when Kinnan sets up Glenalendra Spellskite. Basically, 3 opponents almost cannot beat that setup with flush hands, because Spellskite's hard to answer from an activation level, and also Glenalendra, right? And they also have mana to interact, right? It's almost triple layer of defense, and it's hard to like deal with through spells only, right? If it's permission based, much easier to answer. That's why I think Anos is a little harder to resolve and things like that. That's why Silence Effects is so good. This is stuff I know we all know, but the idea is that's why I play Kutzel. That's why if I could play Dosen, I play Dosen. I play Silence, I play Defense Grid. I'd play more Silence Effects. I would add a Myrel here and anything else I can find. I might put back Random Abolisher because my deck's mostly just white, actually. I want to be able to slam as many of that as possible. And the other part is I want to then also put my protection, right? So in the same vein that Spellskite was good, playing more cards like Sigard, I could probably add back the Angel that gives everything +1/+1. I can't remember Shalai. That's the one I used to play. Play more cards like that. And Spellskite, maybe things that give Ward, just so that when I'm taking my turns, I layer that protection. So when the time comes, there's many layers for you to fight through. And because all permanent based, it's going to be harder to deal with, because I imagine the game's going to be like in the scenarios where I could actually play the game, me putting down these dumb permanents the same way Rogfast does. They're like dangerous, but they're not like game ending yet. You kind of like either you have to answer it now, or if you ignore it until a bigger problem comes, it's like more advantage for you in terms of like it gives you more leverage to like get closer to the win. So that's probably how I would kind of address something like this as well. Is just give more protection. I need to add a Galadriel's thingy, the thing that phases out all your boards, so I don't lose to Deluge and Psychift as often. I think identifying what your deck loses to is very important. Probably cut the GT. GT's not that good. So that's kind of how I would start to tune this list a little bit. I'll probably keep it around and play a little bit more because I enjoy it. Anyways, I know this video probably is super duper long, and some people have brought up that they wanted kind of more competitive thoughts, or like kind of that perspective back. That's something unique that I gave, and I still do. I just don't really think that my audience is interested in it because I don't play as much cEDH anymore. But if you like it, you know, let me know why you like this, what else you want to see, and what your thoughts are. Remember, this deck sucks. I'm washed. Nothing I say matters. Have a good weekend.